Hello, and welcome to Unfiltered Eat Better, Think Better series. This is where we get real about our emotions, mindset, connection to food, and healing, and what it really takes to break free and feel good in your body and life again. I'm your host, Janie Shah, and in this series, I sit down with everyday people who face challenges with their health, body, their mind, their confidence, or long held beliefs that have held them back and found powerful ways to rise and grow through it all. These are real stories, no filters, no fluff, just raw conversations about what they struggled with, what actually helped, and how they created transformation from the inside out. So, whether you're on your own journey or just curious on what's possible, you're in the right place. Here's to eating better, thinking better, and living a phenomenal life. So let's go. Today is our wonderful, amazing guest, Ana. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And I really appreciate you saying yes to this conversation. And I actually reached out to you because of your journey with PCOS and not just the diagnosis itself or what it is, but how it's shaped how you now relate to your body, to food, and even to yourself over time, and all the things that you have now discovered and learned through this process and through this diagnosis. And I think it's such an important journey and story to share. So many people are going to relate to this and will recognize probably parts of themselves in your story too, whether they have PCOS or not. So thank you so much for being here. And yeah, let's get right into it. Let's start with sort of the before, right? Before PCOS had a name or before doctors and labels and things like that. Who were you, Anna? Who were you around food and your body?
Ah, are you able to hear me properly? Because I think the Wi-Fi has,
Yeah,
I don't hear. You can
I can
hear
hear
me and
you.
see me?
Hmm.
Okay, I just got frozen for a second. Okay, thank you for your introduction. It's so kind. And I'm so honored to be talking to you and to be able to have a space that is so open and like recognizing the, I think, many various journeys. It takes a lot to it takes a lot of insight of a person, not so much just the physical things that are part of the journey, but really also like the mindset that it takes to go through that. And yeah, I think the relationship with food is so complex. I kind of was having a bit of I don't know, a moment with myself a couple of days ago where I was just like I'm okay, I'm emotionally supported, and sometimes I get like in a feeling of like food being it's so emotional. It really is so emotional. And I
Yeah,
think like it's just such a huge part of the medicine we put into ourselves.
yeah,
Um, and that affects what our health is. And I think that that was one of the really big effects that I had on me having PCOS was that I was vegetarian for my whole life up until I was about like I want to say 15. I don't know. I just started trying like meat at barbecues and stuff like that here
yeah.
and there. But I think there was a lot of stress around that because my family, well, my dad is vegetarian and he was really like wanted me and my brother to be vegetarian as well. And it wasn't helping my body. Like I didn't realize that it was the cause, but we were just thinking like, yeah, vegetarianism is a super healthy way to live, but like never really thought what a woman with maybe like, some kind of predisposition to hormonal imbalance, like what she can experience with that kind of food. I think I just went with what like was fed, like I was fed, obviously. Um,
Yeah.
and I think the stress in relation like a big thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I was minding my business. Um, one thing I think, just getting into the subconscious a little, it's just coming to me right now. But before my diagnosis, I think taking care of myself, like the act of taking care of myself, it made me feel insecure. Like being open about like healthcare or wellness or working out or anything that I was doing it kind of affirmed in my head that there was something to fix. So that was kind of like a also a block that I had to get through in the journey of like, of course I love myself, want to meet my needs, but it was almost, subconsciously for some other outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
was kind of just to give my mindset of how I was entering before I got diagnosed.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point actually, because sometimes so many people feel that, okay, because there's something wrong with me, I have to take care of myself and I have to fix myself. And there actually isn't anything to fix. There's nothing wrong with anyone. It's just if your body feels it's imbalanced or not at ease, which is another word for disease, right? It's your body is not at ease, it's just an inquiry. It's just an opportunity to kind of look in and be like, okay, where am I not in balance? And how can I support myself better? So yeah, I love that you shared that that was one of the blocks that you actually had to look at and face at. And because I know we're going to talk about your transformation and I know it, but everyone listening is not going to know it. So who were you before? And, like, how would you act or behave, or what was your general day-to-day sort of like before? Because I know it's quite different now.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So, I mean, I think I was in high school at the time, or actually, I was in university. I graduated by this point, but just like, my character was like super fun, kind of party gal, going with the flow of things, like I was young, I was very curious. I say this with the whole like 9 year cycle. I really believe that the way I walked into this past 9 year, that energy like stuck with me. And when I entered, I started to experience so many things in my life for the very first time. And so I was almost like on this high of like wanting to experience that in so many different ways. So that was kind of, I guess, my demeanor. Like I was just really curious about things. Um, but at the same time, I think that there was a lot of like, subconscious comparison. I was surrounded by so many like beautiful girls in uni or in high school as well. And I was like, kind of like, okay, well, just to give preface on PCOS, because I think that it started in my body long before that I got diagnosed. Um,
Okay.
but weight retention, acne, and inflammation, and like also fatigue are like the most common, most prevalent symptoms. So me, I was
Mm,
just sort of fighting with myself, like, how come I'm breaking out so much? Why I have like a beer belly? Like, why is the baby fat not going away? What's happening? Like, and these are all really, really common things. Actually, I think, like, I don't want to put my experience also in a box of just PCOS because I think how I went, like, PCOS was something that gave me like a label, I guess, but I think that the
mm,
experience of just hormone imbalance is way more common and way more just normal. And I think that it's something that like the route that I took was not just, it wasn't just for PCOS, it was just balancing, right? So, um, before I was like working out so much because I was like, oh, I need to lose weight, I need to get rid of this acne, there's something wrong with me on the inside. I was eating like salad every day and no meat, obviously, and going to the gym, smoothies, running like 16 kilometers a week, and all that. Like it was, I put a lot of effort into my health, actually. And that's what
yeah,
also doctors would recommend, people online would say, like, you need to work out more and do
right.
keto. And I was basically doing that, but I was so inflamed, like it was horrible. Um, but yeah, I would consider I was treating my body as if I was a man
Mm, yeah.
because
And it's interesting that you
that
say that.
tense hormone system is able that level of like stress.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Sorry,
it
Anna,
just spoke for a second. What'd you say?
it broke up there a little bit. You were just starting to say that you were treating yourself as if you were a man, and I was gonna say, I was like, it's very interesting that you say that because maybe listeners or people who are watching this could understand your reference in that. But I'm sure there's a lot of people who may not understand what you mean by you were treating yourself and your body as a man. And something I was going to say to that is that, and we might talk about this a lot more after, is men can have a 24-hour sort of hormonal cycle, and they can do the same thing every day, every day, every day, and it will have benefits for them. But as women and females, you have a 30-day or so hormonal cycle. You can't do the same thing every single day and expect the same results because you have to shift with your body. So yeah, maybe you could just expand on that a little bit when you said you were treating yourself like a man.
Yeah, okay, just before I answer, should I just connect to my hotspot to see if that's gonna work better?
Okay, and we're back
Okay.
with the technical
Okay.
difficulties. But yeah, Anna, so that aspect of, yeah, the man's body.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I have also like my path is taking me into working in the wellness, healthcare, tech industry. So I've learned a lot about also men. And it is true that they have a 24-hour hormone cycle, but in my perspective, they're also affected daily with sleep because sleep alters throughout the month and throughout the energy of how much light there is in the sky. So that is also something that, just to clarify, that of course there are a lot more like withstanding, of course, to like just doing the same thing every day, but it's also, I don't believe that that's like the most optimal state for a man.
Mhm.
But that's how research and a lot of things have put men in that direction and put all of society in that direction. Like so many things have not been tested just on men. Diseases, things have just been tested on male bodies for so long. The health science that we have of the human physiology is way, way,
Yeah,
way more historically on a man's body. So naturally, we drip feed that information down, and even a woman healthcare practitioner online, if I'm watching a YouTube workout, like she's also being fed by that historically over like just patriarchy, I guess, health data that we take. So yeah, and it's very outcome based, it's very like output based. You want to move your body to this, outcome. And even the connection of like when we're eating, the message we're sending to the food we're eating, why we are eating the food is signaling also something to our body and how we digest and take anything that we're doing, like the subconscious like intention behind what's happening.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I don't know. Like I think that I went a little bit like hardcore because I also was like felt like I needed to achieve a certain outcome in my body, and that just
right.
a lot of stress, like not being content with where I was.
And
Um,
following, like you said, you were following a methodology that was primarily based on research that's done on men's bodies, and that's not necessarily the most beneficial way to do things for a woman. When did you sort of start to realize that, wow, okay, what I'm doing is clearly not supporting me or making me feel better or not giving me the results that I want?
um, I mean, I it's a good question. Okay, so I'm just gonna like go in my narration of life events because I think
Okay.
that but I was in high school, living this life. I went to university and was, in a big city. I lived in Toronto at the time, and I was like moving around, and my acne just got so bad, and I was feeling really exhausted. Somehow I didn't really think anything of it, like I wasn't that like something is wrong with me. I was just like, oh, I need Accutane. Like that was literally like I was like, some dermatologist needs to give me Accutane right now. Like that was my approach to how I was feeling. And even the fatigue, I was like, drink a coffee and keep going. Like I wasn't even seeing how much my body was being affected by my life and just like living so fast paced. I was just experiencing that and kept pushing and moving and trying to like fix. and not just stop. So, anyways, 6 months into that like final, I think, push, I I decided to drop out of university, and that was like mainly because of the course was just not fitting me. And I came back home, and when I came back home, I think for a first time in my life, I wasn't in an institution, in education, in a full-time something that was keeping me like pushing,
Mm.
and I didn't have a job for like a couple of months as well. So I was just, for the first time in my life, I was really like no plan, and I really surrendered. And then I think I started to realize, like, I don't even know. I had no idea what is PCOS. And one day I like was searching symptoms, like, why do I experience this? Why do I experience this? And then something came up called PCOS, and I was like, huh, what's that? And then I looked at it and I was like, oh, all of the symptoms I actually feel like I never actually thought that what I experienced was due to something or some predisposition, some balance, or some the way that I was living was wrong for my body. Like I never thought about that. Um, and then I went for an ultrasound, and I had super cystic ovaries. Um, but yeah, I also think that like I had done an ultrasound a year before, and the ultrasound a year before was I actually had a bit cystic ovaries, but they didn't tell me and they didn't give me the printout of the ultrasound. So it was kind of really screwed up because a year later they looked at the scans and they were like, "Why didn't they tell you last year?" And I was like, "Why didn't they tell me last year? I don't know. That's
Yeah.
crazy." So that was also a little Kenyan healthcare malfunction situation.
Well,
Um,
it happens everywhere. I was actually speaking to somebody else who was talking about their thyroid function, and they had like a misreading of their scan as well as that, and that was in Europe. Um, so yeah. Okay, so then that happened, and now the second scan shows these cysts, right?
yeah.
And then what happens?
Yeah, so just to explain, PCOS is like we all have ovaries, we have eggs on the ovaries. The eggs are supposed to release when before we bleed during ovulation once a month. If they're not releasing at the ideal time, they just stay on the ovaries and they become cysts. So that is essentially PCOS. Um, and what happens or why this happens is actually really, really similar to diabetes. So it's because that there's too much glucose in the bloodstream, and that excess glucose triggers the luteinizing hormone, which is what triggers the release of the ovaries. That's what happens. So it is actually based on insulin resistance, and we could go on about the relationship between like sugar and cortisol, but high cortisol actually triggers part of the body to release more glucose. It increases insulin resistance, so you're naturally having way more sugar in the bloodstream. And yeah, and then that affects the hormone. And what actually happens is like if someone isn't bleeding for say 60 days, the body is spending as much energy as a woman would spend in 5 cycles in space of 60 days because you're skipping a period and your body keeps trying. It keeps trying. So that's why the fatigue can just be so intense. Wow, I actually just had a moment of like a flashback of like when I was actually graduating. I think I remember being really, really tired and I was trying out birth control just for like, I don't know, they just told me to try birth control for my acne.
Yes, the hormonal balancing. Yeah.
And it made me so depressed as well. Like I remember I was taking photos for my graduation and I was just crying. And I was just like, I don't know. It just is such a not the correct way because you're inducing ovulation. You're not teaching your body to ovulate, which
Mm.
is right, like birth control does that. Um, so yeah, I don't know where we were in the but that's
No,
yeah.
this is
PCOS.
great. Yeah. So this is great. Because and I love that definition of PCOS as well. Just super simplifying what exactly it is, and then sharing your experience and symptoms of what is going on. I think a lot of times, so many of us experience these symptoms and just account it for like how you said when you were in Canada. It was like, well, this is just life. I have acne. Take this thing to get rid of the acne. I don't have energy. Let me take coffee to give me energy, without taking a moment to pause to be like, This is not something that's just normal, that just happens to all of us. And that's why I love these conversations, because we can spread the message more to be, guys, this is not normal. It's not something that we just accept in life. Let's actually look at what might be going on and how you can support yourself through it. So after you've learned all of this, what did you actually hear when you got those results of the scan? What did you hear from the doctors, and then what did you tell yourself about your body after that?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so well, yeah, just like I think it's just to go back on like the stress and what we experience as normal. I honestly really think that every most people are living I think that I don't know, our world people are really more stressed out than they can be. Like, we
Hmm.
don't need to be so rushed. It's like the energy of so many people is always focused on happiness from another moment, the future or the past, or I need to achieve my identity. I need to be this way. I need this outcome. I need like this whole thing of having this narrative in our head, which we can go, that's part of the consciousness preventing us from connecting to the heart. And in that state of awareness, we're literally releasing cortisol all the time.
Yeah.
Like overthinking is a release of cortisol. And I did not realize that in the beginning of my journey. But I knew that when I got diagnosed, I was like, whoa, there's no way I'm going back on birth control because that was what they prescribed me. And I was like, no, thank you. But yeah, in the first moment of getting the diagnosis, um, I was like so devastated. I was like, I'm never gonna be able to have kids. Like, I didn't even want kids, but just like the fact that the option was like in my head, it was gone. But
On, right?
that's really not true. But I thought that based on like my little research that I was like, I'm infertile, like what's happening? Like, oh my
Mm,
God, I'm not a woman, like what, and I was just like, I'm gonna have to change my whole life. I'm gonna have to quit. I was smoking a little here and there, so I was like, I have to just, be a health guru now and change. But it was really intense. Um,
yeah.
but also didn't really trust the healthcare system. And thank God I have really good health insurance. So, like, we'll get in the journey, but my health insurance, shout out to them, I guess. But um, they, like,
Who
the
are
fact
your health insurance?
Cigna, Cigna,
Cigna.
Cigna International. Yeah, I have global health insurance, and just I'm so blessed because the choices that I took and to care for my health would cost thousands.
Mm,
But because I have really good health insurance, and that's why it's so bizarre to me that like the root of natural medicine and just like actually less invasive, less medical, or how the pharmaceutical business is running and the classic gynecology route of things, that is so much cheaper, right, than actually being getting the correct help and education in a different, more like naturally supported route, which just
yeah,
sucks. But just preface that my journey was super, super well supported. I'm really, really privileged and like
yeah,
honored to have been able to have that support. Because it was never a question. If I wanted to go to three different acupuncture or Chinese medicine doctors, it was
yeah.
covered by my insurance. So I was really, really
Wow.
fortunate to be able to have that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
and they
amazing. So
covered, yeah.
what choices did you make?
Yeah, so my initial thing was that I need a better gynecologist than the one here. And my family, like my grandparents have doctors in South Africa in Cape Town, so we flew out there actually for my health checkups and just to get a proper diagnosis because there's some testing that they didn't do here to give a proper diagnosis. The diagnosis of PCOS is also really, really kind of, it's just not very straightforward. It's very vague and ambiguous, actually. So it's kind
Yeah,
of hard to like actually really establish it. It's a lot of experience-based things. Um, it's called the Rotterdam criteria if anybody's actually interested in looking into that. But yeah, I don't know. I asked the gynecologist, and I was like, how many days in med school did you study gynecology or did you study PCOS? And she was like, 1 day. For 1 day in her career, in her education, they taught her about what is PCOS and how it works.
Mm.
And she really didn't understand so much about it. And I had done a lot of
Right.
research and I was kind of like, like, thank you for giving me my diagnosis, but no thank you to your advice because I don't want it. Um,
Yeah.
I will study PCOS for a week before I decide, like to treat myself in some way. And of course she has a lot of wisdom and knowledge, but it just goes to show how little effort has been put into treating PCOS. And I think I've read a stat. I think more people have PCOS than they know. And I think
Mhm.
what's been recorded, 1 in 10 women actually have PCOS, which is a huge number.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So, and considering I didn't even know what it was, like up until this point, and then in 2 months, I'm like going through this whole like intense like escalation of events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
can I
anyway, yeah. Sorry,
Okay, yeah.
continue.
So yeah, first thing was changing your gynecologist. And I just want to shout out here as well to you taking control of your choices in the sense of you empowered yourself with more knowledge. You decided to research into this yourself. And I think, at the end of the day, this is what all of us can do better is just take more personal responsibility in what we're experiencing so that we don't just follow the next thing somebody says. This gives you a lot more power in your next steps. So yeah, so shout out to that. Okay, so changing the
Yeah.
gynecologist, and then what other choices did you make?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just to add to what you're saying, like, yeah, I think part of me, like, just switched on in that moment. And I was like, nobody is here to save you. This is a chronic illness. It is for the rest of your life. This is on you. And I kind of like, had myself like get with the program, take care of yourself. It doesn't matter if you are embarrassed of like one time I was in a class and someone was sitting next to me and saw that I had like an ab workout bookmarked on my laptop and I got so embarrassed by that and I was like, now that I'm thinking about that, that's so silly. I'm like, of course I have an ab workout because I'm trying to have a six pack, like of course, but shouldn't be embarrassed of that kind of thing, but I
Yeah,
was. I don't know, I think people experience that and sometimes we try to be very like blasé, like I think so many people are with the culture of like I don't need to go to the doctor if I'm feeling bad, but this is your body, this is your home, this is your mind, this is, like it's so important to just take that care for ourselves. That's like the bare
mhm,
minimum preliminary thing in life. So yeah, anyways, while I was in South Africa, I went to a Chinese medicine doctor and she was fabulous. Vicky Heinmarch, if anyone is wants to go.
yeah,
Mm. She um she was the first person to tell me slow down your run because I would run like 22 minutes 4 kilometers and she was like you need to get that to like 26 minutes, like slow down, like just relax. That was the first time anyone told me like relax in the exercise because the gynecologist was telling me like, are you not working out? Like she was kind of like, are you not exercising? I was like, I exercise a lot. Um, but she, so she told me that and that really helped. She gave me some herbal medications, which I started off with. And yeah, I don't know. I was kind of just like overwhelmed by, I think, the entire experience. So I went back home. I found a nutritionist online that specializes in PCOS. I think I lasted like honestly 2 or 3 weeks in that, like, it was like an online cohort. And I
okay,
was so overwhelmed. I was like, I have to take a class on how to live. Like, this is insane. Because I was just like, right, left, and center, like this doctor and
yeah,
here, trying an acupuncturist here and all that. But yeah, the Chinese medicine doctor, she recommended a plan that I could give to my local acupuncturist, both here in Kenya and in Tanzania, because I was based between the two. I'm also really fortunate. My family has a wellness center in Tanzania, and I was also really fortunate that this entire thing happened right when I dropped out of school. So I
Yeah.
just chose to like let go of the responsibilities I was putting on myself. I applied to some universities. I wanted to study fashion. That's like also didn't I'm not doing fashion in my career right now, although I wish that I was, but healthcare has now become my calling.
Yeah.
So that's the route that I've taken. But yeah, so I spent literally 4 solid months doing consistent acupuncture once a month, walking kind of and just yoga. Walking, yoga, acupuncture, doing this nutritionist ladies thing and breathing and just like coming back to myself. It was really
Oh,
emotional. I think I was in a bit of like a depressive state, but I just dedicated like a full 4 months just like focus on what to do with this.
yeah.
And I think I had like my like a really big fresh of breath of fresh air in that moment of like it's the first time in my life that I was really like, what's the rush? What's the rush? I don't need to jump and finish the
Yeah.
degree now, and I don't need to just get a job and da da da. Like, I can live in the little room in my grandparents' house and eat chicken and be happy. And that's what I did.
Yeah. I
And
love
that's what,
it. Wow.
yeah. So that was
Yeah.
like, I was so supported in that. Um, but yeah,
And
I was gonna,
I'm going
yeah.
to ask you something here, though, for someone listening who could be facing PCOS. What are some sort of simple nutrition tips you could share with them that you picked up along the way?
Yeah, I would love to share that. So, the main thing which I learned is actually really, again, all of this is universal to me. Like all of the route I took, yes, acupuncture is more specific, but I slowly then got into like more cyclical living, so started to adapt all of these changes that I was doing according to where I was in my cycle. Um, and that makes sense for every single person. If you're feeling tired and fatigued and need a coffee to stay awake, cyclical living, understand how and when that your energy can be used. Like that is the biggest thing I have to say. It's not just for PCOS. But even with food, because our body takes sugar in a very specific way, and um, yeah, I don't know, like food, nutrition, it's kind of crazy because like it's so much cheaper to buy a heavy carb diet, right? And in a lot of
Mm,
cultures, heavy carb is very, very just it's cultural. So I mean, I completely understand it. It's so comforting, like a big whatever bowl of I love
yeah.
sandwiches and like a big bowl of pasta or whatever. Like it's a comfort thing, I think, but we don't realize how much that heavy amount of carbohydrate affects the body as like yeah, and what I did, this main thing that this woman did is number one, don't restrict yourself. Like that was beautiful. But it was just about changing the proportions of the meal. Like we're
Mm,
usually looking at a plate and it's carb, veggies on the side, and a piece of meat, you know?
mm,
And the carb is like the main focus, right? And I
great.
completely then changed that and the vegetable was the main focus of the dish. So even how I cooked became more creative, more interesting, and carbs would just be a small piece of something on the side or not at all. Or like the sugar as something that is small on the side at the end. Um, but yeah, so super high protein in the morning, like
Yeah.
she us doing like even 30, 40 grams of protein first thing in the morning, and then a meal, like I would kind of have like two heavy meals throughout the day. So a heavier evening meal with just like three types of vegetables at least,
Yeah.
and then like a good medium good portion of protein. I think like half the amount of vegetables would be a protein, and then a half of the protein would be a carb. If that makes sense, just
Mhm.
proportion wise. So it was super simple because it was just readjusting the proportions, and I
Yeah.
think re establishing the relationship with how I perceive the thing on my plate to be. Um, but the increase in protein was something that I did not at all realize how much that was necessary for me, for my blood, for my body. Like I my skin color changed. Like I have better skin and more color in my skin than when I didn't eat as much protein, and especially like red meats before the period because we're losing a lot of iron, things like that. Just adjusting for when we needed it. So yeah, food wise, and also the order in which we eat the food. So starting with the veggies, then the protein, then the carbs. That was like a really helpful little tool. And I pretty much stick with that. Anything that I'm having that's like a natural sugar as well. Anything that's low fiber, not to eat a shit ton of low fiber. Sorry, excuse my French, but a lot of sugary, low fiber fruits as well, like pineapple. And if you are gonna have pineapple, pair with like some healthy fat or protein, like some nuts. I just started doing that. Like if I have a sugary thing or carby thing with some protein, always with some protein, and it really significantly
Yeah.
affects the spike. Actually, probably I think a year into this, I mean, I maintained that like general diet for a while, but I wanted to test it and I got a glucose monitor, and everything I have just said is was absolutely showed true on the glucose monitor versus I tested out
Yeah.
not doing that and eating how I would have eaten, which was like, go to the
Mm.
restaurant and they give you the bread first, so you just go for the bread. And I would do that, and that would be big glucose spike versus doing this. Also, vodka, great, low sugar alcohol. Very calorie
If you're
happy.
gonna have it, then
Yeah.
it's low sugar. Yeah.
Even that, I
Okay.
mean, I never drank soda, so that was good. Juices as well, it's like a huge amount of sh unnecessary sugar.
Yeah.
Always like the natural form of the fruit is good. There's also
Mm.
so much, I don't know, differences like cooked versus raw,
So,
uh,
yeah.
blended versus not blended, and all of that actually correlates to a point in time in the cycle of women's body and lunar. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I
so
feel like that in itself could probably be a whole other 1 hour talk just specifically on
yeah.
that food aspect. Or even, I mean, you mentioned cyclical sort of living, and this is something that I practice and coach often as well, is the seasonal living, right? Like rotating our foods, making sure we get that variety. But now, so also most more specifically, if you're a woman, matching it to your cycle as well is actually really beneficial and more supportive of your hormonal health, but even just your energy and your mindset. But I'd like to touch a little bit on your body as well before we start to wrap up. But was there a moment or maybe a series of small moments where your relationship with your body began to soften or shift?
Yeah, I mean, okay. Well, I would just fast forward. So, like, basically, this was two or yeah, two-ish, three-ish years ago.
Okay.
And within the first year of getting diagnosed, I lost 12 kilos, which is wild because I was working out like not at all as much as I was. And I was eating more. Like I was eating so much more because I was 30-gram wake up and 30 grams of protein. Like it was heavy, but I lost 12 kilos. So that just goes to show like slow
Yeah.
down and your body will love you. Like I was particularly like I wanted to lose weight because my body was holding on a lot to it. So that was for me like in a good direction.
Um,
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I softened that a lot. It was I think the biggest change, just to like wrap up on the journey, that was kind of just in a maintenance zone for like a good 2 years of just like, okay,
mm,
doing this. I know what I'm doing. I'm having my herbs. I also okay, I'm just gonna spit out some like I researched a lot of herbs, natural herbs, and I just intuitively took them when I needed. So rhodiola is the root of a rose plant
mhm.
or cortisol spike, which happens in the morning. I would take that whenever I felt like heightened activity in my energy. I would just calm down with that. Ashwagandha for sleep at night. Spirulina has essential amino acids. I don't know. There's a lot that there is. Magnesium also super important. So I would just like I had this maintenance lifestyle basically for two
Yeah.
years. And I didn't like so much get into my mental. I was just, honestly, I was quite numb. I lived in London at this time, and I was just like, I'm so, I'm just scratching the surface. Like, I was taking like 8 classes. I was really burnt out in like my mental state. So, like, I was just hoping that I would look cute in my outfit and I would
So
not
it's like
break.
the physical body was going well, but then the mental state wasn't quite matching that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I just focused on the physical for a while. And I think that it takes with subconscious work, like your body needs to feel safe to be able to go and understand your own mind, to get into a deep place of meditation as well. Like you need to feel safe in your body. But what it looks like to really feel safe in your body is so much more complex, right? It's not just sit down and breathe and okay, I'm okay now. Like no. So I think it really took actually a while for me to get to like a proper feeling of comfort in my body. And
Mm.
yeah, 2 years into that maintenance zone, I was living in London, and at the end of that, I did an ultrasound and I had reversed one of my cystic ovaries. So that was incredible because I was just on my herbs, eating my food, doing my routine. And I still drank, still partied, still smoked from here and there. Like I was, not perfect, but was really putting some consistency in my routine.
Mm.
And then I moved to Madrid, and when I finished uni, I was just at a real like mental breaking point. Like just like I was just overwhelmed so much by my life and everything. And I stopped smoking everything. I stopped drinking. I just like paused life. I stopped uni. I stopped everything. And I journaled a lot. So this is something just like mentally, like I really was trying to understand my relationship with myself, understand not just why, because I think that that's such a big focus that we have is like, why did this happen? It's because this person is a dickhead or whatever. Sorry, but you know what I mean? Like we're blaming a lot, like, oh, why would that person? It's because they have trauma and they're putting it on me. Like we're always kind of looking for the externalized why, but
Right.
I switched that into looking at my own why. Like, why am I here in something that isn't feeling right? And what is my fear in making that boundary? What is, certain fears that will come up. So just that big pivot of like getting into understanding my mental, emotional state took,
Yeah.
I think, a pause of like uni and just like stopping. And this was now like 3 years after, which was this year, earlier this year. And um, so, okay,
This year
so
being 2025.
2025. Oh, yes, sorry,
Because we're
2025.
in 2026.
We're in 2026 now. Yeah. So yeah, 2025 March, I think, is when I would say that like the shift happened where my relationship with myself mentally, I started to put a lot more effort into like I think I've always journaled from time to time, but my
Mm.
journaling was becoming really explosive. It was like I can't handle like it was just like I would just do it when I was really stressed out. Wouldn't be as consistent, and it was
Right.
difficult to even want to go to journal because there was just too much. And so like if I didn't have a time to devote myself to writing and just like let my stream of consciousness go, I wouldn't journal and then I would just like keep it all inside me. And I think it's so
Mm.
important to like just like we can't control the thoughts. So detach from them, separate from them, put them somewhere else. That was like the main thing. Um,
Yeah.
but when I started this, well, number one, my relationship with myself, how I see myself changed so much. And that was like one of the biggest things that like having calmer thoughts, not being driven by the thoughts, being, more present with myself, understanding why I'm comparing, understanding why I'm chasing, understand why I'm forcing myself, pushing myself in certain ways. Like those were all things that came back to my relationship with my body. And physically, mentally, emotionally, the insecurities like really started to get into that. And as soon as I started this journey of consciousness work, my period shifted to bleeding on the new moon which is before artificial light. I think I mentioned this last time that before artificial light, all women used to bleed on the new moon. So, um, now with the consciousness work, which is really like, I believe in the chakra system, you clear out
Mhm.
your chakras, your energy, and energy flows through you easier. So that's honestly what a shift I think I had,
Yeah.
like the emotional baggage cleared and the energy flow of being in that natural cycle with the new moon
Yeah.
fell into place. And
Yeah.
since I'm still bleed on the new moon at that time every month, and I'm so in sync with that energy more. And
Yeah.
yeah, I have just really, really deepened my relationship with myself, like really,
Wow.
really deepened it. And I I really actually do really accept my body, even though like it has fluctuated still. Like, have had more bloated days and gained weight, lost weight, whatever, but
Yeah.
not so focused on that. Like even when I'm working out, I'm not focused on the outcome. It's just, it
Mhm.
feels good. It feels like I'm serving myself. It feels part of my natural rhythm. And when it's not part of my natural rhythm, I don't work out. I just sleep, chill,
Yeah.
just like that's it. So I'm very gentle on myself, but very like intentional with everything that I do.
With everything.
Yeah, and
I
I
think
have grown a lot of love.
we're probably going to need to do another episode on this idea of consciousness work and how you so come in tune with yourself, because I think that's really important in the world that we live in, to be able to just come back to ourselves, to be present, to know ourselves best, because nobody knows you except you. That I think we've got to do that anyway. So I'm gonna we're gonna pencil that in
Let's
at some
do
point. I think
yes.
just focusing on that as well would be
I mean,
incredible.
I think
But
that there's, sorry, I just want to say, I think
yeah,
that there's so much in like overlap in the work that you do with the seasons as
yeah,
well, and like, the work I do with the seasons. And yeah, I don't know, like hopefully I'm doing something. Well, I am creating an app, so
yeah.
another,
And which
another
I can't wait for that. Actually, the app that you're creating is going to be so supportive on so many different angles.
thank
And
you.
just to so many different people. But just out of curiosity, would the Anna of like 5 years ago be using words like stream of consciousness or consciousness? I'm just curious. Would you have been saying these things?
I mean, okay, the stream of consciousness, I have always known that there is a stream of consciousness that needs to
Okay.
spill out of me. And I have journaled since I was 10-ish or
Oh
12-ish.
wow.
Yeah, so I've always like, and it was funny, my dad told me this recently where he was like, when you were a kid, there was one day or a conversation I had with him that he remembers where I told him, my mind told me to do this. So I was differentiating between me and my mind when I was like really young
Wow.
already. And when I like journaling for me is really just a stream of consciousness. It's just like let it out. But now I have shifted to like the stream of consciousness. I mean, that I think what I'm describing stream of consciousness is the subconscious thought processes, which I think, not able to exactly differentiate for a while
Mm,
or I couldn't really hear the intuitive voice as much. So the
yeah,
thing that I was putting down was my subconscious stream because
yeah.
I didn't have another voice. And as I have worked on my consciousness health, now when I write, it's an intuitive stream
Mm,
of intuitive expression, which is a completely different type of expression than the subconscious thoughts. It's all very natural, but it's taken a while to like allow my subconscious to relax enough for me to actually express from an entirely intuitive space where there's
yeah.
no idea what I'm
Wow.
going to write about and it's just like completely intuitive. So yeah, I mean, I that was the shift. I always knew I had this subconscious and the thoughts,
Yeah,
but I didn't access another part of my intelligence, I guess, up until
yeah.
more recently. Yeah.
And I guess
Uh,
also tying it together in a totally holistic way in terms of your body and your health and your nutrition and your mindset. It's all coming together now rather than just sort of being one piece of it. So yeah, Anna, thank you. Wow, so much for sharing your incredible journey. And we literally, I feel, only touched the iceberg. There were so many bits of that that we could have just talked hours on. And so I'm sure there's going to be more episodes where we do that. But I've got to ask you our closing question, which I ask every guest on this series, is if healing had a voice, what would it say to you today?
Hmm. I mean, just pause. I think that was the first thing that came to me is just that you're absolutely, it is not only brave to be in stillness, but you deserve it. And like, yeah, I mean, it takes balls. I think that that's honestly like the biggest part of my journey is like I've spent days in silence by myself and chosen stillness, because that's how you meet yourself. And
Wow.
it's like the biggest investment I think there is in life is to invest in yourself, and that is to really embrace stillness and solitude. I think it's part of the journey. I mean, connection is such an integral part of life. We have infinite options to connect with people. Um, and solitude is something that we're not as tapped into anymore. And I think that, that meeting yourself and pausing, it's the
Mhm.
that's healing. Yeah, it's brave. It's so brave to do that. So if
Yeah.
you're taking time with yourself, that's incredible. It's actually really difficult, I think, to slow down enough to just have a lot of
Mhm.
stillness in life these days. So
Yeah.
yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Very true. Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Okay, I also can I just announce that we're doing a demo and if people are interested to write me.
Yes, please. Yeah. One, where they can, how should they reach you? And what is if you have already a name for the app, I'm not sure. But yeah, how can people reach you?
So the company is called Ana Syncs. My name is ANA, and then Syncs is like synchronicity, SYNCS. And that's the Instagram page. So just Instagram message us. And yeah, I want to say February, end February, March, we have a demo. There's limited spots, but anybody who is a wellness practitioner, as well as anybody who wants to just like understand themselves, or not understand, I mean, part of understanding yourself, but the app is really just like complete integrated wellness health management is the first app, and second app is for practitioners to be able to hold space for people and connect with people through that as well as a
Yeah.
medium. So anybody who's interested in that, we would love any input. We would love any like yeah,
Yeah.
any interest because yeah, I mean there's so much to be done. But yeah, our philosophy is chronobiology as well as the evolution of consciousness. The entire app is built on a very, very, very well, delicate, thought out back end system that takes into account all of the little parts about humanity. So it's not an AI talking to you, I promise.
Ah, I love that. So is the best way for people to reach out on Instagram, or do you have an email or anything as well?
I won't. I just Anna Sinks. Yeah, Anna Sinks
Yeah.
on
Okay,
Instagram.
perfect.
That's the way
Yeah.
for now. Yeah.
Well, I know personally I'm super excited about this and I'm definitely signing up for the demo. So I can't wait for it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anna. And yeah, for everybody who's listening, if this conversation resonated with you, helped you or made you feel seen in some way, please be sure to hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And feel free to come join our free Facebook community, Eat Better, Think Better. It's where these conversations continue and where you'll find real people walking the same path. And if you're ready to go deeper into your own journey, whether it's healing your relationship with food, shifting your mindset, or breaking free from beliefs that are holding you back, you will find more support, resources, and ways to work with me at www.eatbetterthinkbetter.com. So until next time, here's to eating better, thinking better, and living a phenomenal life. Let's go.